taking you back to the start. I mean, you were formed in 1985 when the whole Bay Area thrash thing was was taking the world by storm, quite literally. Do you have good memories of back then?
Oh, great memories. Before I was ever in Violence, my memories were going to the first thrash show I saw was Slayer at the Keystone Berkeley. They still had the black makeup under their eyes that night, and then hanging out at Ruthie's Inn, seeing Suicidal, Possess, Exodus, at the time Legacy, Death Angel. It's just like a great scene, and when I got the opportunity to be in Violence, I was friends with the guys because I was a fan of the band. I liked the music, and I worked with Dean and Phil, and Dean had mentioned that Jerry left the band, so I went up to Phil and said, "Hey man, I'll give that a try. What the hell?" So that's how it kind of started for us. For me with the band, and then playing shows, getting an opportunity to support other bands that were touring through town, because we did once we released our demo, we were able to draw in 100 to 200 people. So the clubs liked that, so when the touring bands came through, they put us on the bill to bring those 200 people in. And it was a great experience. It's like there was shows that seemed every week, thrash shows every week at the Stone or the Omni or Mabuhay Gardens or One Step Beyond. I remember Metallica played Mabuhay Gardens as I think they called themselves Whiplash or something like that. But it was a cool scene, great time.
Were
It's
you?
great part of it too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you were very much part of the Bay Area thrash movement at the time. Were you conscious of that this was a new thing, that this was a brand new movement in metal?
Well, for me, it was like a transition in metal, from Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and then listening to punk rock too at the same time, and then hearing that Kill 'Em All for the first time. It was kind of like, wow, this is different, and it just kind of turned from that to Show No Mercy, Bonded by Blood, and it was just kind of like one of those things that happened that you were in, but I don't know that we were all. I mean, we knew the Bay Area thrash scene was a big deal, but to us, it was just kind of home. So it was never really a radical change as much as this progression from one type of metal to another, and a lot of it came from Venom, and Possessed was there in the very beginning too, and that band, I would say, pretty much started death metal. But in the Bay Area, they were a band, and people loved to see them because they were heavy, and they got all the elements were there, the stage diving, the pits, and Ruthie's Inn had a low ceiling too, so it was always kind of like everything seemed to be so compressed, when you went there to see bands, and so yeah, it was cool because I mean it wasn't like a transition automatically to thrash. Because how do you explain Possessed, you know, amongst us all? And so it was great, and when I talk to people about it, it's especially younger kids, because I've done some interviews with some younger people, and they're just kind of like, you start telling them about that era and that scene, and their eyes kind of light up, like
Mm.
they're actually talking to someone that's connected to it.
Were you like many thrash bands? Were you heavily influenced by punk?
I was. I don't know if Phil was much. And the funny part is, I always hear the San Francisco Bay Area thrash scene. It's like, well, I think only one band came from San Francisco. That was Death Angel. The rest of us were from the East Bay. Like Possess was Pinole, Exodus was in like Emeryville area and Berkeley, and Testament, and a lot of the guys were from like the Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore Tri Valley area. I grew up in Castor Valley, and so it was a lot of to do with the East Bay more than anything. Um, but yeah, it was cool.
Um, you split in 1993, didn't you? After doing 3 albums, what happened? I mean, was it because you felt that the scene was kind of petering out, or did you? What happened?
No, the scene. I don't. It wasn't about the scene. It was more about the record industry itself at the time. And
Mm.
Vio-lence. We were never. None of our records are on the same label, and there's a reason for that. That the labels would get excited about us, and then they'd sign us, and then they were kind of like, "Oh, this really is a thrash band. This is not a band that compromises." And that it was funny because when we submitted Oppressing the Masses to Mechanics, Steve Sinclair actually rewrote lyrics to some of my songs because I had to submit the lyrics to the label. And he actually called me at home one day and told me, "Oh yeah, well, we're really looking for that grammatically correct, stuff." So I took the liberty of rewriting some of your lyrics, and I was wondering if you wanted to hear them. Of course, I'm all, "Oh, hell
Not
yeah,
cool.
I want to hear that all day long. That's hilarious." And that ended that relationship. So it was not so much the scene or the music. It was just the industry. I didn't see any reason to stick with an industry that doesn't really stick with the musicians. And
How
now
do
the
you?
musicians, with the
I was
digital
going to
era.
say, how do you feel about the music industry now, where you've got all the independents and people can post music on Spotify, on Bandcamp, and SoundCloud? Do you see that as a way forward for bands?
Yeah, I think so, because now the band, the musicians, they can control their own destiny, and they can, like you said, put music out on Spotify. They can put stuff out on YouTube. And for us, we're just really fortunate that we're hooked up with Metal Blade Records because, Brian's been part of the thrash scene since the very beginning.
Certainly has, yeah.
So it's like if you asked Vio-lence. If Vio-lence was the same guys today, if we were able to travel back in time, we would have gone straight to Metal Blade and not met any of the other labels, because he gets it, and the labels, and it's still an independent label that is grown very large, and they've got what you have with them is a staff that really cares about not just the bands, but the label that they work for, and so they really work hard for you. Like Tom, for instance, getting me, he's been like loading my schedule with interviews. I've never had that from a label before. We had some interviews, but not like what Tom's doing. Tom's really working hard.
You credit where is due, though. A lot of that is because this new EP is incredible.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
it is. I mean, we've given it a few listens now, and I should tell the viewers the new album is called "Let the World Burn," isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it's it's like old violence, but it's brought forward to present day with the whole new aggression and a whole new sense of urgency. How was it getting back into the recording studio and finding that vibe again? Did you find it easy, or was it a struggle at first?
Well, the first song we wrote was "Flesh from Bone," and it was, I would say it was easy in that, you know, um, we're just not going to be influenced by anybody, and we're going to put it out there, because Phil and I, we talked, it's like, well, this has to be like a really heavy duty punch in the face, this EP, because people are going to be looking back at, Eternal Nightmare and Oppressing the Masses. And since we haven't done anything in so long, it's going to be very anticipated. And, we want to come out hard and heavy and lyrically, you know, violence. We wanted to come out and just, lay it out and not care about what, people think, or like we used to when we were, bunch of punks. It's like, we're coming out hard, and I'm going to write lyrics. So I'm not going to care. I can't compromise the lyrics, and that, ooh, if I say that, will that be a little bit too insensitive, or will someone get offended? We don't care if people get offended, and so it's like it came across easy because there was no restrictions. There was no barriers. Like, oh, we got to stay within this, this category or this zone. If we go outside, we could offend somebody. Or it's like, no, that's exactly what we wanted to do.
And there's no shortage of material to write about at the moment, is there? If you want to write about violence and destruction and problems around the world, there's plenty of it.
Well, humans.
Yeah.
They're good at that.
They're good at that sort of thing. The production from Trident as well is awesome. I mean, it's got some of the modern feel, but you haven't gone down that route of keeping to click tracks and all all the rest of the BS that goes with a lot of modern metal now. How do you feel about some of the new bands that are around now?
What I kind of see in these new bands, these young bands, it's like they're all chasing the same sound, like maybe they're picking the Lamb of God sound or something, and if they could be like them, then people like them, and so when I listen to, like, if I listen to liquid metal and I'm driving down the highway not paying attention to brakes between songs, sometimes I can't, it's like, is this the same song I just listened to?
Yeah,
because it's like the vocals all want to sound the same. They all sound alike, women and men included. It's like they have to have this roaring, growling, and it's just like, okay, well, I don't know, it's not too creative. Or they'll put in the proverbial melodic section where they go from roaring to, singing some melodic stuff. It's like, okay, that's not really my game either. And maybe it's good for them and it's successful and they found a niche that they fit into. But for us, it's like we don't really listen. I don't listen to metal. I just kind of pop in and out occasionally, see what bands are doing. I do like Cult of Luna. They're pretty cool. And I like Behemoth, but for the most part, I don't listen to a whole lot of metal just because it just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't grab me.
No,
like the classics. You have like the Celtic Frost and King Diamond's early music and Exodus and all those bands, and like, it had a thrash sound, but each band had its own sound.
Yeah,
and
and they were all pushing forward.
Yeah, I don't hear that from these young musicians these days. It's like I was actually watching an interview with Tom G. Warrior the other day, and he was talking about it. That's great that you can play super fast and all that, but it's just not my thing, And you could roar and you could scream and play super incredible solos to show everybody how great of a musician you are. But it's like, is it going to be remembered, 10, 20, 30 years? I mean, was Eternal Nightmare going to be 35?
Absolutely, yeah.
And kids, and how I measure it for Eternal Nightmare is that when we play, there's 17, 16, 15-year-old kids there, and they're not there because their parents listened to us. They're there because they found us. And so, there's still something to be said about that, being able to have something that has that longevity. And we're hoping this EP has the same effect on people, 20 years from now, 30 years from now.
Very sure it will. The video is cool as well for Let the World Burn.
Yeah, it was fun. It was it's videos are fun when you see the end result. When you're actually filming green screen stuff, you're just kind of, you do your part for 20 minutes and then you're like, okay, now what do I do? And you sit around all day waiting for everyone else to do their parts. Then they change the set. You got to wait for that. Eat some burritos. Hang out. Oh, it's my turn again? Okay, cool. Oh, I'm done? Okay. So actually making a video was kind of boring, but the end result is, I think, what turned out really good. And Robert Massis did a great job.
And you've got some live dates coming up as well, haven't you? Which is very cool to hear.
Yeah, we do. So we'll be with Corner starting in May. We do 5 shows. The last show would be the Maryland Death Fest. We also are playing in May at the Oblivion Access Fest. I want to say it's May 14th we're playing in Austin, Texas. And, we're working on some South America stuff, but and we'll be at Bloodstock And
Excellent.
for us, we're just waiting, hoping that these countries start waking up and opening and stop with these. Because we're not vaccinated. One
Can't
of us
blame
is,
you.
of us are not, and we're not gonna get vaccinated because it's not like something I would do for my health. And so then the only other reason would be for access, and I don't live my life like that. I don't believe in that.
Well, at the end of the day, that's being blackmailed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you got countries, oh well, if you get vax, you can come over and play, and it's like, oh, you know what? I'll give it to you a different way. You drop your mandates, and you'll get to see violence.
That's right. Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
You stick to your guns.
Yeah, and so that's our attitude. And so our European agent, he contacted me last week, and things are opening up. Different countries are, so he's starting to look at those countries and seeing when he can get us booked in. Like I said, we're on Bloodstock, so we're on Alcatraz Fest, but I think Belgium is still mandating vaxes.
They're still in the grip of their own brand of insanity in Belgium.
Yeah, it's like the poor people. It's like you live in a country, and then the government is like I don't know. The governments are just out of control with this. It's kind of turned into a control thing, just like up in Canada. Those poor people up there. I feel bad for them. And in Australia, it's like I don't know how. I mean, I thought Australia was like a free, open country, and it turns out that their government's the opposite.
It certainly is. It's become prison planet.
Yeah. So I would actually be inclined not to go there because I'm afraid of their government.
Quite right too. At least until they resume normality, should we put it that way? We were on about new bands. If you could give one piece of advice to any new band just starting out, what would it be?
I would say don't listen to metal. You don't realize how easy it can influence your subconscious. Because when we wrote this record, there was times where we'd stop and literally had a whole section written with drums and everything, and then one of us would go, hey, that sounds a little bit like this song, and then we'd play it and be like, God damn it, So we'd have to scrap it. So don't you be a metal fan, that's cool. If you listen to a lot of the new music, you're gonna get influenced. And so I would say just find your spot and do what you want to do that you like. I mean, don't try to please people, because it's when you try to please people that you become like everyone else.
Absolutely.
It's when you write for yourself and create and enjoy creating that, and being creating for yourself. That's what will set you apart from other bands. I mean, we don't sound like anyone else. We're not trying to not sound like anyone else.
You are Vio-lence. That's who you are.
We just do our thing, and it comes out like that. And
yeah. Well, is there anything you'd like to say to your many fans out there?
Just stay strong and horns up, and as the world opens, Vio-lence will be there. And so we're working on stuff. We love playing live, but we're not a big touring band, so we won't be out on any 40-date tours or anything like that. So if we're close, if you see we're playing and we're close to your town, and I'm talking, I've gone to see shows in LA, which is like 400 miles from here.
Yeah, if you really want to see a band, you travel.
Yeah, and so that's kind of us. We may or may not come to your town, so be prepared to travel.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck with the new EP and with the tour. And all I can say is, horns up, dude. You rock.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Bye, and thank you for your time.
Okay, take care.
You've never been welcome. Sluts for lust. Virus. You destroy your saviors, unrecognized, then crucified. Now the tidal wave of flames, the wind, the blood, the weak in their cries. It's never pretty, it's beautiful desperation, it's romance. This is your future, it's your loved ones, everything you worship, every person you hate. As the curtain closes,